Hello, welcome to another episode of Lost Translation. I'm your host, Arthur, and today I have with me Jay. How's it going, Jay?
Pretty good. It's been a good morning. How's everybody doing?
So today we're going to talk about Pokemon once again. I'm sorry if I'm boring people with this subject at this time. It's hopefully by this time is like the third or the fourth episode about Pokemon. I'm not even counting it. We already covered the Pokemon and the movies, the Pokemon and the games. We didn't go too much details with the secondary games. And what I mean by secondary games, like your Pokemon Snap, your Pokemon Stadium, your Pokemon Coliseum. I'm bringing it back. Pokemon Go. That should be like a whole episode by itself. Because to me, it's might be a controversial take, but it's such a repetitive game that after a point you just be like, what am I playing this for?
Well, no, we're talking about Coliseum and stuff. Those are our first 3D Pokemon games, actual games that you could play through. That we're in like a little farm or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the secondary games were not the subject of our episode. It was mainly the main ones like Pokemon Red and Blue, Yellow, Crystal, and so forth. But today we're not talking about the games. We are moving forward to another topic with the Pokemon universe, which is practically the Pokemon manga. It's not very known for a lot of people. It's very hard to get the first ones, I think.
Yeah, I've only seen them in one store so far, and they usually have some of the books, but they're actually pretty hard to come by because they're always out of stock, or at least like the first and second books are.
Yeah, and then it's pretty expensive. I think if you go to Amazon.com, you can probably buy them, the first ones. But and also the thing is, with the manga itself is a very different aspect of the show.
It's such a completely different feel, like compared to the show, the movies, and the games. It's completely different.
That's why we wanted to kind of dedicate a whole episode about just the Pokemon manga itself. We know a lot of shows that you watch, like Demon Slayer, My Hero Academia, Naruto, Bleach, Yu Yu Hakusho, you name it, whatever show, it comes from a certain form. Pokemon is a little on a different part of the spectrum because it comes from the original games that came out back in '96. So you have your red, your blue, and and your green. However, green and red were released in Japan only. And then
here we have blue.
Right. And then in the US you have red and blue, and then you have later down the line you end up with the yellow, which is basically a carbon copy of the show because you could get all the main starters that Ash had on the show. So you had the first gen starters with Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. So it kind of it's interesting because the show and the manga came around the same time. I think it came a little bit before the show started, but I'm not exactly sure on the dates. Because the original manga for Pokemon is called, let me get the full name here, is Pokemon Booster Super Saru. That's what it's called. Okay. Yeah, I know. Which is practically called Pocket Monster Special. In English is Pokemon Adventures. And it's also called Pokesape, Pokespeed for short. I don't know why. Maybe the beginning of Pokemon and Special? Yeah, okay, again. So it's pretty much supposed to be based on the show, but it's not. It's just based on the franchise.
Yeah, I would say it's based more on characters that we don't really get to see in the show.
The interesting thing is that the original one, which is red, green, and blue, you have a character named Green, which is unheard of on the show because red on the show itself is supposed to be Ash.
Yeah.
And then blue is supposed to be Gary.
Yeah, Gary.
And then green, who knows?
Green is just someone who likes to steal things, really.
Yeah, she has a problem with stealing, which is comical. She's a and then Green is a female protagonist. So it's interesting the dynamic that the manga went with three main protagonists. Instead of just the two that you get on the original games. I think later down the line on the games, you interact with a third trainer, but it's not until fifth or sixth generation, if I'm not wrong. The one that becomes convoluted a little bit is X and Y because you have like
different partners.
Exactly. You have the main character, you have Serena, and then you have four other ones on top of it. I think that's how it goes. Because I don't think Serena's part of that group. I don't remember X and Y too much. I don't think I play the games. I just watch the anime. But the thing about the manga itself is still being in circulation, which is nuts. It's been just as long as the anime because the anime came out in 98, 99. And I came out of the thing. And so the original work for the game was 96, but that's the game. And the anime, interesting. Okay, I just double checked because I'm on Wikipedia for Pokemon, and the original shows premiered in Japan, TV Tokyo in April 97. So it wasn't too much after the games came out. So it was like a year after. And the manga itself came out a month before, which was in March. So the anime series has been around for 27 years, almost. The franchise has been around for almost 30. It's going to be 30 in 2026. That's insane. That is it's so insane.
It does not feel like that old of a company or that old of games, manga, and anime.
Right, because I said this on the games, I believe that Nintendo always being so smart into this certain aspect. Not so much for the other franchises, but I think Pokemon shows like how much Nintendo knew that they have something in their hands of how to market because you have so many properties to it. You just don't have the manga. And then you have the other main property. Let's give an example of a show that's very popular. So Jujutsu Kaisen, very popular show. But how much of a profit are you getting from just items here and there with JJK? I mean, you're going to get a little bit of money with T-shirts and plushies and fun pops. Is it a Funko Pops?
Funko Pop, yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff. You get some money from that. But your main focus is not that. Your main focus is the anime and the show. The anime and the show is the same freaking thing I'm saying. Yeah, that's what happens. When we record just early in the morning, I'm just saying stuff for the sake of saying stuff.
With animes, I feel like that are super popular. They do promote it, like the books and the mangas and like they call the little figures and stuff. But what they always try to do is, or what some of them try to do is they make a game and then it ends up just flopping.
Right. It's like they think, oh, we're good in this medium, and then we go to a different outlet and they have to scale back, or there's problems with production, there's problems with who's going to develop the game and all that stuff. So it's very hard for a show to be very consistent in terms of I'm getting some profit from this part of the show just as much as of those other parts. In the case for Pokemon, they are successful in seem like all fronts. Unfortunately, the anime suffers from a lot of stuff. And maybe that's probably was a good thing because it's a completely drastic tone of how the world of Pokemon is perceived. Because in Pokemon adventures, in comparison to even with the main protagonist, you have a trainer that's capable of doing the right stuff. Even in the first volume, before you even get to the second volume, Red, which is supposed to be not a carbon copy of Ash, is actually the trainer you fight on the game on Gold and Silver. That's the character that you play as in the original Red and Blue, or Red, Blue, and Green, and Yellow. It's technically you're fighting yourself, which is interesting. It's an interesting take. And I think the manga takes it to a whole new level when is Red is supposed to be you and or in other words, Ash. So I think that the manga itself provides a different like outtake on how to perceive with the show. How do you feel about the manga itself, Jay?
I feel in the manga, it just goes to show how badass of a trainer Red is. He actually shows like progression throughout the whole entire book. He shows like, or he actually figures out what he's doing wrong and changes it so he can actually go and win his next fight. And he wants to actually catch them all. He goes by that slogan and does it well because he does end up catching every single Pokemon, and that's something that Ash could never do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's one of the thing that I admire about Brad because he has more of that drive than a lot of trainers that you see throughout the show.
Mm-hmm.
Because, truth be told, even though I love how there's an interaction with Brock and Misty on the original Indigo League, there's not much else to it because you're kind of not neglecting your dreams, but you're kind of like subduing your dreams in order to fulfill Ash's dream. So you don't really have a passion. Yes, Brock does leave and come back, but apparently he just goes backwards as well, which is a problem that we see with the show a lot of times. There's more of a seriousness to Red than you see with Ash. On an episode that you are not part of it, but we were talking about how certain characters are too serious on the show and how sometimes you need a comedy to alleviate a little bit of the seriousness. I think that there's too much of a completely 180 with Red instead of Ash because Ash is just dumb. Which it comes out as like, oh, he's a kid, he doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah, but you go to different shows that he's like 10 years old, but he's still like trying to fend himself for his life.
And so is Red. Like Red, Blue, Leaf, all of them. They're all at that starting age of being 10 and getting their first Pokemon. But they all actually show progression that Ash doesn't.
Right, and that's the thing is a take that I would give is the fact that Ash goes forward, but he goes backwards as well. It's one thing that drives me absolutely nuts. It's like any show that I watch. If the character is not progressing in a way that's going to be important to the plot line, or there's no consequences on what he's doing, there's no progression, and he progresses and then goes back to his old ways, you just wasted my time. Our boy Yuji from JJK. There's a lot of growth between season 1 and season 2 with him.
Mm-hmm.
And if he was like going back to his old, because and the thing about Yuji, he's not dumb. He's not dumb like a lot of main characters of the past. And it's like there's progression with him. But if he was back to his being high school self, and it's kind of like, what's the point of watching this show? That's the discussion for another episode, which is I feel like how Black and White made Ash seem like no progress has been done on the seasons prior. Because he makes progress in Sinnoh, he makes progress in Hoenn, and he goes back to a noob. Like I said, it's a discussion for another time. And I think that's what makes it interesting to read the manga, because the manga is just a different take on how to approach the Pokemon world. And
yeah,
I think it's a good.
I was just gonna say it is a completely different take. Like We get to see trainers progress. We get to see battles that are actually good and people can learn from them. And I feel like that's the one thing that the anime didn't do as well, because Ash always forgets his type matchups or has like certain win conditions because it's like raining or something, like we said in the last episode. But in the show, that doesn't really happen. And honestly, like life or death in the show. I mean, in the manga.
The show he kind of forgets. I was listening to a podcast, which is mainly Pokemon podcast, but
Hmm.
they were talking about is it was BS how in the early episodes Ash beat a Onyx, which is a rock type, with a Pikachu, which is an electric type.
Yeah, which should not affect
Right,
him
should
at
have
all.
had because there's a sprinkler problem.
Yeah.
And then he hit like Thunderbolt on the water, and then Onyx died because water's super effective against rain. Um, so, bullshit like that, it's less common, I think, on the manga than the anime,
Hmm.
because I think we talked about it on the games and the show comparison, the fact that Ash didn't really earn a lot of those badges.
Yeah, a lot of them were just straight up given to him.
I mean, Sabrina, he didn't win that one.
Mm-mm.
And Sabrina was a hard gym, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was our like first psychic, like actual psychic type trainer that we saw in like the whole show. And Ash had to do was catch a, what was it, a Haunter
Hunter to
or a
make it,
Ghastly.
yeah, to make her alive.
Yeah.
And the thing that makes no sense is like you caught a hunter, but at the same time, what happened to the hunter? He
Yeah.
became part of Sabrina's crew, which makes no sense. Pokemon forgets their like the lore, and then they
Mhm.
forget their mechanics, which is a major important part of the games. Because I know we're talking about a little bit more of the games today instead of the manga, but we're going kind of back and forth because I remember playing the game and I got to the point that when I level up I think it was my Charmeleon to Charizard. I don't remember. Almost became to the point that I'm like Ash, that my Charizard was not obeying because didn't have enough badges. But if you think about it, when we were first originally playing the game, you always have the problem that one of your Pokemon was too OP for the rest of your team, and you
Yeah.
had one that was like too strong, and the other ones were like, mediocre at best, and you're kind of like, crap, what am I gonna do? Also, going back to the Ash not really earning a lot of things because he didn't earn the rock badge, he didn't earn the Cascade badge. That was like given to him by Misty and Rock.
Hmm.
He earned the electric one that I don't remember the name. I don't remember about the grass one. If you think about it, 2/3 of the A badges he didn't really earn. And I think with Red shows this different outtake of how he earns his badges instead of just giving it to him. Makes him work harder. He's not a stupid trainer by no means.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still learning on how to do it, all this stuff. But
In like in the first book, when we get like introduced to Red and everything, at the start he doesn't really know much. He seems like Ash, where he doesn't know type matchups and he's confused in that aspect. But throughout the whole entire book, he actually learns types, gets all of his Pokemon to fully evolve, basically. And it's different because he didn't start with the like a traditional starter. He had a Poliwhirl or a Poliwag.
right. And I think that at one point, I don't think Pikachu was supposed to be the mascot of
Mm-mm.
Pokemon.
It was supposed to be like a Chansey or something.
It's supposed to be Clefairy. I think it was
Yeah,
supposed
yeah,
to be
one of them.
It was one of the pink ones. Sorry, if people like Jigglypuff, Chansey, or Clefairy, I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of those. The only reason why people use Chansey is because his HP is like off the roof.
Yeah, crazy,
Uh,
crazy HP, like 400 or 500 at level 100.
yeah, and it's not even it's in light form,
Mhm.
so it's not even we're not even touching that. But it's interesting because he doesn't go, like I said, he doesn't go with his traditional starter. Yeah, Ash didn't start with the traditional starter because on the games itself, if you get red and blue, you get either moving forward throughout every single generation and up to now, you got red, not red, but you got, if you think about red, green, and blue symbolizes fire, grass, and water.
Mhm.
Which is interesting to think about it. But because they have more of an elemental display against them instead of just being just your traditional rock paper scissors, but in the Pokemon terms, because rock beats scissors beats paper, paper beats rock. It's pretty much the same concept. So it's like you have non-traditional starters on both the show and on the
Mhm.
on the manga itself, because you have a Poliwag that's like you don't find it until like you are like the safari zone, or like if you have a fishing rod on the original games, if I remember correctly. And Pikachu, you don't find it until like you're in
Viridian Forest.
Viridian City or Viridian Forest. You know, like towards like before you get to Viridian Forest. It's interesting that they went that route again instead of giving him an OP Pokemon to start with, because I think he eventually gets a Bulbasaur.
No, he gets all of them at one point, but his first is a Charmander.
Okay,
Besides the Poliwag.
right, but I don't remember how Fire Red of the manga, but I believe he involves this Pokemon better than Ash,
Way better.
because Ash is just, we talked about this on previous ones. There's no true mechanics going from the games to the anime because Ash doesn't know how to evolve. Because especially if like if I use a let's give a starter example. If I use a Charmander 24/7 as my dad or another Pokemon, that Charmander is going to be a Charmeleon or a Charizard in no time,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just plowing through people. I am just destroying everybody in my sight. But on the show, it forgets the fact that it's like this Pokemon does level up at this level. I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
The thing with like the anime and the manga is that the Pokemon don't always evolve like through levels and stuff. It's through like emotion most times. Like in the book, uh, Red's Poliwag evolves into a Poliwhirl whenever he's on the SS Anne and he's trying to stop Lieutenant Surge because he's working with Team Rocket and kidnapping Pokemon, and he's like has them all as like contraband on the SS Anne, and Red gets knocked the fuck out and gets sent into the water, and Poliwag jumps in to go and save him and evolves into a Poliwhirl and gets him back on land. And from that point on, that's, you know, his one of his first evolutions, I'm pretty sure. But that just like proves my point of like I feel like in the manga and in anime, all the Pokemon evolve like through emotions and not like experience.
Yeah, I think that would be a cool mechanic to have in the games. I talked a little bit about Radical Red, which is, it's a fan-made game, but at the same time, imagine if you lose to a certain gym for like 8 times, and then after all this time, like your Pokemon just decides to evolve because you're just not good enough.
Yeah, you're just not a good trainer.
It's not a good trainer. But at the same time, it becomes to the point that is it worth it to have that mechanic implemented into the games, through emotions? Yeah, you can involve certain types, like
Not with every Pokemon. I feel like it would be a little too much. But that's the one thing that I like. That's a difference. But I feel like it's harder to evolve Pokemon that way because most times they only evolve like whenever you're losing.
And the other thing that I was going to put on, and I was just reading on because it's very sort of resourceful and truthful. I don't know about the second part, but I like the fact that the manga Koga, Lieutenant Surge, and Sabrina are bad guys, which is, I think, now really implied into the show.
Yeah,
Maybe.
in the show they're all just like normal gym trainers and there's nothing too different about them. But in the manga they're like Team Rocket henchmen, like leaders almost.
Right, and I think on the game per se, Koga is the gym leader on the first generation. He's the Elite Four on the second because his daughter takes over on Gold and Silver, if I remember correctly. I haven't played Gold and Silver in like years. And I think Sabrina, even I think on the sprite of Sabrina on the game, it looks like a Team Rocket grunt, which is an interesting take. I think the lore's there for her to be a former operative of Team Rocket. And we know Lieutenant Surge did fight in a war that took place years and years back before the Pokemon world started, before Arceus was a thing, because Arceus doesn't exist in the beginning. Remember that. It only happens on the fourth generation.
Yeah. Well, because in Gold and Silver, we get like a little bit of a hint at it. But yeah, it isn't until Gen 4 when we can actually get one. In Heart Gold Soul Silver, they have like an event that you could get at Toys R Us, so you could get like a level 1 Arceus.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I know it's a sign tangent for me, but Toys R Us was funny because I would go there to get stuff. Like, when my boys were, like, younger, and the place was, like, dead.
Yeah.
And it's, like, 6 or 7 o'clock. I think it's, like, they didn't evolve with the times, and it's just, rest in peace, just like Blockbuster.
Netflix came out, and then it was over for them, really.
Well, the thing is, like, also, Blockbuster was just, like, they lost a lot of money once they took the late fees away, because most of their income was coming from that. Because then people would keep like movies and games for like 2 weeks at a time, and also
I was gonna say, didn't they have games there? I feel like if you would have got a Pokemon game there and then just kept it, you would have been completely set.
They had games, and you're probably too young, but Hollywood Video was around. And you could actually buy games from them too. I got like a bunch of like DVDs and games from them. Not games per se, but like yeah. But anyways, that was a little side tangent for me. Well, it's interesting because the anime doesn't really. Well, what we were talking about before I went on my tangent, I really forgot.
We were talking about the gym leaders in Koga.
Yeah,
Koga, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you get more of that of a hint that they were part of the Team Rocket stuff. I just like the fact that the manga gives this different perspective, and you're not like, okay, they're not always good person, and it kind of like scraps the whole idea of that Sabrina was a good girl that lost her ways, which is a dumb story that the anime just put together. They're like, okay, let's go for a story like this. Okay, go. So my question is, why in the games you need 8 badges? So why the Blue Moon Red only has 7 badges?
In the manga and the anime, or not the anime, just in the manga, Giovanni is one of the gym leaders, and half of the time he's not even at the gym. I don't know how he got that position as a gym leader, but he is.
I mean, the thing is, like, he's Team Rocket's boss. He's like the mafioso, and the reasoning too is because you said like how he got the position is probably like paid a lot of money from stealing all this Pokemon. But there's just a conspiracy theory. There's a lot of corruption in the politics of Pokemon world too. So there's a lot of sad money on it from Giovanni. They're like, hey, give me a gym leader, but I'm not gonna be there, but I'm gonna be corrupt. Probably he has like two wives kind of situation. Have a family and a wife, and he's like, but I knew about a life of crime. So cool freaking knows, man.
I honestly think whoever that gym leader was before, he boomed him and just took his position and was like, I'm the gym leader now. Nobody's going to tell me any different because nobody can tell him any different.
Yeah, especially the first generation. How like he's not a cynical antagonist. He's just a very cold and calculated because he's like, all right, I want to create Mewtwo, and he wants to get Mewtwo back on the Mewtwo Returns movie.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, because
I know the gym leaders in the game. 2 of them actually helped him as like researchers and helped him like work up the plan to, use Mew's DNA. I'm pretty sure it was Blaine and I'm trying to remember who else. I know it was Blaine was a researcher, and like in the game, it actually like tells you in a certain in his island, there's like a book you can go and read, and it goes over like a little bit of the lore. It doesn't cover that much, but it's like a little bit of the lore, how he was able to create Mewtwo.
Yeah, Giovanni provides that whole different aspect because just like the anime, and I think probably in the multiverse, he's not very prevalent.
Mm.
He just sends out his goons to do the dirty deeds, and if they want a Pikachu so bad, Team Rocket, they would have Giovanni would be more involved.
It's like the thing with in the anime, we don't really see Giovanni all that much, but Jesse and James and Meowth talk about him like a pretty decent amount. Like they always say the boss is gonna love this Pikachu once we get it, but we never really see him. And in the manga, Red's like always encountering Team Rocket goons. Like every page of the book. Not really, but that's what it feels like sometimes. He's like fighting some Team Rocket grunt or like fighting 4 or 5 of them at a time.
But I think that would be like a very extension between the show and the manga because you see it's Jesse and James, and that's practically what it is. And you have like Casey and I forgot the other guy's name down the line, but they're like rivals to Team Rocket, but they're still part of Team Rocket, which makes no sense whatsoever. I think by them just doing rat and counting a lot of grunts, it feels like the game when you have to fight like multiple grunts almost back to back when you on their early games and red and blue and yellow you have to go through before you meet I forgot his name Bill. You have to go through the bridge and you fight 6 of them, which is kind of like okay. And they're like, oh, I'm a Team Rocket grunt. And when you're almost encountering Snorlax, I think you have to get more Team Rocket grunts in order to go for Silpho Factory. You have to find more. I think the power plant you have to fight more.
Oh yeah, the power plant. There's like 20, 25 grunts in there.
And then you underground. Not the underground cave, but with the cave, you have to find some.
Mm-hmm.
It's like at least 100 plus by the end of the game that you have to fight. It's just like to me. I think it would give more of a idea of there's more stakes on the show if Ash was fighting more than just two. Yeah, it's just like the record 0 to 5 episodes. Who knows? I think that's one of the main problems with the show is the fact that there's no really moving forward with the villains because a lot of the times you have a lot of even your Naruto's and your Dragon Ball Z's and stuff like your older shows. You do have consequences with the villain, and there's also like a redemption arc with the villains, or they're growing as villains, so forth. One of the ones that I put up there in terms of like how he has grown as a villain is like Shigaraki or My Hero. From season 1 to season 6, it's just like there's that growth. It's not just the main character that's growing; the villain's growing with it in order to keep up with their hero. So that's a different story for another time. But at the same time, I think that's the one main component about what lacked on the original series of the show. I know they're trying to keep it lighthearted and all that stuff, but even shows that are lighthearted, like Spy Family, there's some growth.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry for going on the rant, but I just wish you'd be able to train your Pokemon better if you have more encounters with more grunts. And I think that's why it makes people drawn to the manga. It's not because it's an alternative to the anime. Because the anime is sometimes like Ash is in this region again. Okay. And I think the way the manga does it does reset just like the games, but you have a whole new set of characters. You have like X and Y. You have X, and you have Y. You have maybe they have Z. I'm not sure.
And with X and Y, it's not like in the manga. It's you go at like you. My bad. I got lost with my words. but you play as the person in the manga. Like it's not Ash, it's like the same thing with Red and Blue. You play as those two trainers, Serena and I forget what the dude's name is. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, it's okay. Should be probably in the back of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, no, you're all right. I can hear the praises.
You can hear the pages. It's just art. It's just art. Where are the names at?
Um, don't know about him.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, with X and Y in the manga, you get to see all six, what, six of them, five of them, like progress. His name is just X.
Yeah, that's what I found. Yeah,
Yeah, his name is just X.
the should be one.
Mhm.
It's also here. I think it's missing because I don't think that they made it to like Serena until like
The game and manga.
until like probably the anime, but it's probably not called Serena in Japanese anyways.
Yeah, and with a lot of
Because
like
original
the Pokemon names and moves and stuff in Japanese, like the translation to them is just completely different. Like some of them sound a lot more cool from like Japanese to anime translation or Japanese to English translation. I mean,
yeah, the Serena's the only one that her name is Serena in Japanese. Like for instance, like Missy is like Kazumi, and then I think Brock is. Sorry, I'm on Google right now. Brock is Takashi. Takashi. You know, it's probably cooler, but the only reason why there is the problem with Pokemon, regardless if it's like the manga, the anime, or the games, is that they made it to reach more of an Western audience.
the kid audience.
Yeah.
That's always my go-to. I feel like it's so they just want kids to get into it, and I understand that. But a lot of the people that started playing Pokemon aren't really kids anymore.
They are in their 20s or these are like early 50s.
Mhm.
They're still playing the game because
Yeah.
it's relatable, or they're teaching their kids how to play the games. Or they go like in walks and then you have a bunch of parents and their kids playing Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
So it's kind
It's
of
just so many things you can do, like with your family, with the Pokemon franchise. At least you can teach them how to play the card game. You can teach them how to play the games. Play Pokemon Go. It's like one of the easiest things to do.
right. And that's why they probably made a Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu, which is like probably to me, and I said this is like a very kiddie game.
Oh yeah, and BDSP also. I feel like those four chibi games that they made, they're all catered towards kids.
And that's why I like the fact that the manga, it's not really catered to that demographic. It is in one way, but it's not the same because you see deaths of Pokemon that is not talked about. You see other stuff that happens over there. You see a main character almost drowning.
Yeah, actually getting knocked out and pushed into the water or thrown into the water, getting surrounded by 30 different electric type Pokemon, also like all in the SSN as like henchmen for Lieutenant Surge. We don't get that.
And I like another thing that I was going to point out as I'm like reading this Wikipedia is the fact that there's a continuation with with the manga because Red and Green and Blue, it's like the original games. They're original for the franchise. It comes out, like I said, a little bit before the anime comes out, more months apart. They didn't know that the show was going to be this big of a hit.
Yeah.
And with the yellow one, it's a continuation. So it's kind of like, is a to be continue Dragon Ball Z esque kind of situation, but it's not, you don't hear him going power up 5 episodes later and then he's still powering up. The fact that they kind of went in a different way with the yellow version than the show itself, because if you think about it, the show is practically Pokemon Yellow, especially early seasons. There's no buts or ifs about it. It's Pokemon Yellow because Ash gets Pikachu, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Charmander. That's the three starters in the game, and the one special starter. I'm using quotation.
The thing that I like about Yellow in the manga is that I forgot if it's a boy or a girl, but their name is Amarillo. So like in Spanish. Okay, yeah. Her name is in the manga is Amarillo, and not like straight up just Yellow, but they still call her Yellow because it's just a little translation for it. I just think that's cool that they're like introducing other languages into their Japanese show and manga.
The other aspect is you introduce yellow. You have blue that was the rival, which is Gary. You have green. What is a green
Leaf.
level? It's green.
Leaf.
Yeah, green.
Green or leaf. Because in Pokemon Masters, they have like blue, red, and leaf. They don't call her green in there. I don't know if that's just like a translation thing that they just didn't want to call her green, or I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I don't know what she looks like. I'm looking at a picture of like can't tell. But the thing is, I find it interesting that you have blue, which is Gary. You have green or leaf, whatever. You have yellow. That's supposed to be you when you play Pokemon Yellow.
Hmm.
You have Bell, which is the one that has like a freaky accident and becomes a Pokemon. You have Lieutenant Surge, that's now a good guy. You have Koga and Sabrina. They're trying all to bring Elite Four together, which is kind of like, yeah, it's interesting to say the least, but do you need all this powerful trainers to take out Team Rocket? I no Elite Four. I'm not exactly too sure about that. Um, I find it interesting that it takes away from Rad being the main protagonist, and it's a search and rescue kind of situation for them to find him. It kind of adds up to the whole story. I think it might be Pokemon Masters. Not sure. Either Masters or Gold and Silver. Because I think that you don't know that the final trainer that you're looking for is Red in the game.
Yeah, in
Well,
gold
you
and
just don't know
silver.
where you just don't know where he's at. So he's like on mountain. I forgot the name of the mountain.
Uh,
It's okay. It's okay, man.
it's in the game that I literally have in my hands right now.
You fight him on where? Oh no, I'm looking.
Oh, damn it! I encountered Lugia. I was gonna look at it for you.
Hold on. Where you fight Red in Pokemon Silver? Silver? Mountain Silver. Is it Mountain Silver? No. Really?
Yeah, Mount Silver.
I'm like,
And
Captain Silver. I'm
like
like,
the thing is like that what Oak. I forgot if it was Oak or Elm that told Gold that there was a trainer like worth fighting because he saw potential in Gold in the anime. I mean in the manga, and was like, there's one trainer that's going to actually be a challenge for you. And at that point, he also told Red that he would send somebody to go and battle him because he had already beat the Elite Four. He had already beat Blue. He had already caught all the Pokemon. And so I'm pretty sure it's Professor Oak. He told Gold to go to Mount Silver and to fight Red. So he saw potential that he saw in Red because he knew Red was going to be like one of the most badass trainers he's had in his class, I guess, or in that generation of trainers. And Gold was the next best that he saw potential in.
yeah, it's
And that's why in Gold and Silver we go to Mount Silver and we fight Red because he we were the people or the person that was going to be able to beat him.
yeah, yeah. It's I find it interesting because the thing is, you're practically fighting a copy of yourself because you were supposed to be this powerful by the time that you're playing Gold and Silver.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to be more knowledgeable of the game. You're supposed to be a way better version than Ash. Because I'm saying I've been Pokemon for like years. I can take out like a break, and I'm like I'm still remember my typings. The only ones I'm like not too sure is like the Steel, the Fairy, and the like Dark and stuff like that. But I can learn it pretty quickly. It's not that hard. It's just like, is that old saying, you never forget how to ride a bike kind of situation.
Right.
And the thing is, like, you would think, like, okay, Ash, you've been doing this for 20 plus years. You still don't learn Pokemon type?
It's because he's in that coma. I told you.
Oh, jeez. I think the comment would be more interesting, but make it to the point that you're just like, okay, get to the point already. But then he goes from like a newbie and getting better as a trainer in Johto, and you go through Hoenn and you're going from Sinnoh, it's like, yeah, you're getting there. The creators are like, control, delete, just delete everything, and just come back to it, and then he goes to like Kalos, and he's just like OP again, and he goes to Sun and Moon, he's back in school. I'm like, okay.
Doesn't make sense, but I okay.
And then he goes to the last region. He goes to Valor. He goes to Valor, and
Yeah,
then
Valor.
and then he's like, "Oh, okay, go. You are cool. You can catch all the Pokemon. You're kind of annoying character, but you want to catch them all. That's cool. I'm only gonna catch 6 or 7 Pokemon. Cool. I'm gonna be the Pokemon master, even though I was a loser in Kalos, loser in Sinnoh, a loser in Hoenn, a loser in Johto,
In just every
and,
single region.
that's for the Sun and Moon. I wasn't a loser. I won. You know why? Because they made it easier for me.
I knew it was gonna be my last season on the show. That's the thing I don't understand. Like, we all still would have watched if he, won the championship, and I think it would have been more interesting. Like, I just hated to see him lose for 20 years.
Yeah, and I think the one that still drives me nuts to this day is X and Y. I know a lot of people talk about Sinnoh and Hoenn being like disappointment because he had not a Traco. He had a Grovyle, not a Grovyle.
Reptile.
Sometimes, sorry. He had a Sceptile. He has an Infernape, and in one of the seasons, OP Infernape, OP Sceptile. You had a typically makes some sense in the shows. Like he had a Turtwig that's like OP, and then
That
you
was
get
like 20-0, and then he evolved and lost every single battle.
what sense does that make? If it was like if they use the concept of the manga into the concept of the show, Ash would be like an amazing trainer. The problem that I have with a lot of shows and with a lot of, and it's not just like Pokemon per se, but like there's a lot of shows that there's no growth within characters. Like the show that we will talk about, I know I've been saying that we'll talk about constantly, but we will, I promise, is Jobless Reincarnation, is the fact that the main character, there's no growth with him. There's no growth.
Yeah, he has like one of the most broken abilities in the game to be able to cast things without, saying this chant, and he just stays the same exact power throughout the whole entire show for the most part.
Right. The thing is, like, yeah, the only growth happens not as a character. I'm not going to say that it happens, but that's only growth. There's no depth with the character. You go through other shows. There's like and that goes on with the character. They change because they have to change. There's no way around it. One great example is that was like Von Saga. The main character changes so much from season 1 to season 2. I'm not gonna spoil the show, but there's just so much growth because like I don't want to live on this life anymore. That's what it comes down to. I'm huge passion on Ash as a character, but the thing is, like, you could have had such a great team on season 1 of the show, and it took you forever to get a good team. When you got to the point where you have like an OP Charizard, you freaking let him go. What is the point? Pidgeot was an amazing flying type. Yeah, Pidgey sucks, but Pidgeot is good. Butterfree, it's a decent bug type. I don't understand.
One of his fully evolved Pokemon, and he was just like, "Oh well, I guess all Butterfrees do this, so you have to go." And then his Butterfree got a girl and never came back.
Right, Pidgeot comes back, but he come back to Pokemon Adventures.
Yeah,
It's that. It's like there's no point in Ash being around if you're not gonna grow. But I think he should have grown from season 1 to Orange Islands to Johto Adventures, whatever. Just keep on going. But though I understand that you're trying to reset the show according to how you reset in the games, but at the same time, people do reset the games, but they don't reset all the way to the beginning. People still will learn their types. People still will. Like I use the analogy of riding a bike. If you have played the games from 98 to now, you do know your types.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to change anything. And I know I'm supposed to be talking more about the manga, but it's just like some things about the show that just like drives me nuts, and that's why like the manga is like a way for you to just be like, okay, I actually do have a trainer that has support. That I can be like, okay, there's some growth with it.
Yeah.
Okay, his characters are going with him. There's a different perspective, different ways to see that world. And it's just a problem with Pokemon. I know they're caring towards kids, but one of my biggest pet peeves is like when you change the animation of a show that's been so successful from day one, and then with that certain animation, yeah, you can tweak the animation a little bit, but don't go like westernized altogether. That's the problem with Sun and Moon, because they try to make it so cartoony. It took away the whole appeal of being anime. It's like, okay, what audience are you trying to appeal? You're trying to appeal to your original Japanese audience or your original American audience, or these people that are watching shows now. And it's a rant for me. It's just frustrating. It's just absolutely frustrating because anime take on a lot of things. A lot of shows are great because of what they do. When they start catering towards a specific audience, they forget their roots. It's not anime for me anymore. It's not.
Yeah. It's like in the anime, we don't need a fresh start every season, and I don't know why they thought we would, besides the catering towards kids or like trying to get kids to watch the show like every Saturday, no, every Monday morning or whatever it was during the week.
It was like Saturday morning. It's just very like with the manga, not just the red and green blue version, the yellow version, and so forth. And you go down the line, you have more of this connectivity with the characters. So for instance, like if something happened with red, green, blue in the first section, carries over to the yellow, and then it carries over to gold and silver and crystal, and you introduce new characters. And then you layer in a way that it's like, okay, you have a continuous story, then it's going region to region. On the anime shows, it just takes it away. The reason why the anime exists is to promote the freaking games.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason. I'm sorry. The anime is only successful because they're like, okay, like I said earlier, Nintendo is smart because they're like, okay, we can cater this to a new audience. Grab the ball and run with it. And they did. And it's like 1,000 episodes now, and you're like, okay, I didn't know what to do. And the problem that I was trying to say is the fact that the anime is just like, unlike the manga, unlike the games, even though the main problem that I have with the games, I wish the games would be a continuous and lineage story as well, because I wish you could be like, I'm a kid from Kalos. Let's use Kalos as an example because the new games are coming out next year, or the continuation, or whatever it may be.
And the only like continuation of a story that we get is with the remakes for Gold and Silver. Like we go from Johto, once we beat the Elite Four, we can go to Kanto and we can battle all of the 8 trainers there. We get to see Brock and Misty. We get Mewtwo back again. All of the legendaries from those regions. Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno. But no other game has done that for us besides like the newer ones where we get like wormholes or paradox Pokemon. It's not like there's no story to it. There's no like, I want to get this Pokemon. It's like you get to pick and choose like when you want it, basically.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And like you said, the only game that does that is Hard Gold and Soul Silver. It's unfortunate because, like I was trying to say, is like I'm a kid from Kalos and I want to go to Unova. I want to go to Sinnoh. I want to go to Hoenn, Johto, Kanto. I want to go to some of the islands in Sun and Moon. I want to fly to the one that looks like New York City. I don't remember the name of the city of the game. It's supposed to, black and white is practically the U.S. There's a area with a skyscraper. It's supposed to be New York.
Hmm.
I just wish the game would be like I can go from Generation 9 and I can be like, okay, I wanted this Pokemon that I was never able to use on Generation 2. I want to get a Heracross, but I'm on this region. You can get that. Yeah. Add add more DLCs, like $5 a pop. Don't make it to be like another fucking game. Another
No, you know
$5.
they're greedy. You know everybody's gonna buy it if they put it for $30, $40. It's the same like with how they did with Sword and Shield. They dropped an unreleased game and then they finish it off by making you pay another $30, $40 for the DLC.
Right, but I wish that if you want to add like more spice to the game, just add more aspects to it. And the point that I was trying to make with the anime itself is like when Ash goes to region, he forgets what happened in the previous season. He forgets what happened. Like, yeah, it shows like Dawn and May and all those other women that were in Ash's life, but he doesn't remember shit. He
And the
doesn't.
only thing he does remember is is Jesse James, Brock and Misty, like any of the people that he actually like went through his adventure with. That's the only thing he seems to remember. But
Yeah,
Pokemon battles, he's completely blind to it all.
right, and that's the thing. What the manga does because it's a completely different artist than what of the anime. And the thing is, like, I like the layers. Like I was saying, the layers that they have because okay, you have Crystal, maybe 5 volumes behind, and then Crystal can come back and help you with this new story that you're trying to develop. Or you have Emerald come back and do another story with the protagonists of Fire Red, Green Leaf. Who knows? And then making the way that it feels like it's a continuation. It's layered up there. Professor Oak is still a part of it, not just be like a new region, a new professor. Stop.
And every now and then we'll get like a video call with Professor Oak or but we don't get anything relating to the other like seasons of shows. And I feel like with the one thing in the game that they missed with and Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, they should have put another region in there. Because they just made a complete remake of a game and added nothing new at all. Maybe they had like Sylveon in there, but I'm pretty sure there were basically no new Pokemon like from that region.
And that's the thing, the lack of depth on the games. Yeah, of course, people are still gonna play the games. Of course, people are just gonna eat up whatever is Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
It like I said, this is not a bashing of Pokemon. Pokemon is a very small franchise, very respectful franchise. They've done well to the community. They introduced a lot of kids. A lot of people wouldn't be into they. And the thing is, funny enough, a lot of people don't know that Pokemon is anime. They probably thought it was like an American show. To be fair,
Yeah, they all think it's a cartoon, but it's an anime.
yeah, it's like, oh, it's for kids. And the thing is, like, and anime has such a bad reputation as it is because people are like, they think it was like, oh, it's only for kids. Why are you still watching this? But that's the thing is like, okay, there's a lot of shows that people watch, and then people are like, why are you still watching this? Like, I'm not bashing on anyone about it, but like, a lot of people still watch Survivor for crying out loud. A lot of people still watch those shows on MTV, the challenges. People still watch that shit. So this is just a message to a lot of people is the fact that don't make fun of people that watch anime or Pokemon and play Pokemon games if you're still watching this kind of shit shows that are out there, like the Bachelors and all that.
Yeah.
I know this became like a rant episode for me, but at the same time, it just pisses me off when people treat Pokemon with the disrespecting. And the thing is, like, it's like one of the most influential IPs that are out there in terms of economy and all this stuff. It provides so many jobs, so many good things. And, it blows my mind that people are just like, oh, it's a cartoon. It's a cartoon. A cartoon is a Tom and Jerry. A
And I
cartoon is
think like
Flintstones and stuff like that. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, I think like for kids, Pokemon introduces like problem solving skills or like to the card games, it actually makes them think about what their next few plays are going to be, or like in the battles they have to figure out, what they're doing wrong. And it's a good thing to just like to learn and think about. It's nice strategy to have learned.
Yeah, because like the thing is like, what really are you gonna learn from old American shows like the Flintstones and the Jetsons and all that stuff? I'm not bashing on that idea, but what I'm saying is the fact that, like you said, there's so much strategy that goes into Pokemon. You can learn your elements. I learned a lot of like when I was still in Brazil. I learned a lot of like new English words by playing the games because you're reading quite a bit. It's important to understand that Pokemon, it's an anime that is going to be sticking around. The games are still evolving.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was ranting about how the games, a lot of mechanics that needs to be introduced.
There's a lot of things that would be like hard to introduce into a game, like because in the anime and the manga they actually like build these relationships with Pokemon and like get into situations we can never get into in the games. And so I understand why they don't have any like one thing I've always wanted them to incorporate is like if your Pokemon gets to the level it needs to evolve in a battle, it should evolve in that battle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just like there's like so many mechanics and so many aspects that are not introduced into the game. For instance, like the common example is like Charmeleon knew that he was getting beat up, and then he's like, he only evolves not because he cares for Ash, because
Never
Charizard,
lose. They
you
don't want
know,
to lose.
exactly, because he was he saw this fire type and he was like, okay, I want to beat him. So he evolves with Charizard. He didn't really care about Ash because Charizard is probably one of my favorite Pokemons, and that's a lot of people's favorite Pokemon. But I was like a Charizard, like I always loved Charizard from the get-go. Not like because of the show, because I was not really watching the show, and then Charizard was like just like a total because it was hard to watch it in Brazil. And because different times and I had to dub it and all the other stuff. But anyways, Charizard was like a total douche towards Ash anyways. So I kind of like that, like his demeanor towards Ash, and I just wish like you said, I just wish that Ash would be not Ash per se, but like the mechanics of like, okay, this Pokemon is getting beat up, you evolve.
Mhm.
Don't need to evolve on your level, but because and like the best point I made was like if I'm like losing the Radical Red is like I lost 8 times and my Pokemon just evolved because he's sick and tired of losing. I just wish that like the games and the mangas and the show would be kind of like a universal methodology of how to get your Pokemon to evolve the same way. And I think we're not gonna get that. But trust me, we're not.
Like one thing in the show that I didn't like compared to the manga or the games is like that the Pokemon could choose that they didn't want to evolve. Like Pikachu, I understand that. Like they didn't let him evolve because that's the mascot. They're not going to let him go. But like Ash's Bulbasaur, there's like a whole entire festival involved with like Bulbasaur's evolving. And Bulbasaur was like, no, I don't want to. So he stayed a Bulbasaur the entire rest of the show. He didn't, maybe he evolved into Ivysaur, but he didn't want to. He even fought a Venusaur because that's how badly he did not want to evolve.
I think that's the main problem with the show is the fact that I remember when it's like, oh, wait a second, your Pokemon is glowing. He's about to evolve on the game, right? And it feels like Ash kept on pressing the A button every time when Bulbasaur wanted to evolve, and he's like, no, I don't want you to.
I'm not gonna let you.
I'm not gonna let you. You're not gonna be able to run, Tobo. What?
Yeah.
A button. Oh, Charmander, I'll let you be. Pidgeotto, I'll let you be. Like, how many episodes did it take to Caterpie to evolve? It did not take that long to freaking evolve into a
It didn't.
freaking. So, sense does that make much more logic, Then, one thing I want to make is the fact that the movie is like superior to the anime in that aspect because right is like, okay, you want to evolve, fine, I'll let you be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one where it started to evolve. And that's why all the games and all the stuff, who sets the bar to for you to be the game is Red. He's the one that sets the bar, which is kind of like an homage from the games to the manga. There's no correlation to it. There's no like there's no same story and stuff like that. It's not the same. The only thing that's the same between the mangas and the games is the fact that okay,
Pokemon are involved.
Pokemon are involved. That's one thing. And the second thing, the characters are from the region. In green on the first one, which is the Kanto region, and then you go yellow to part of Kanto. So it's a continuation. And then you continue on your journey. Gold, Silver, and Crystal is part of the Johto. And then you introduce new characters and others. That's the difference. And the title of the manga changes for that specific region. But it's continuous story. Something that the games failed to do, something that the anime failed to do. So that's pretty much what
And I feel like in the anime, she's the only person that doesn't progress. Like every time, like, in the starting seasons, we see Gary again, his Pokemon are evolved. He's like giving them like rigorous training exercises and he's actually like progressing to be a good trainer. But Ash is just like, Team Rocket's coming after us. Let's just battle them and then we're going to go and eat. We're just going to have Brock cook us some food. He doesn't do like any training at all. But Red, he's constantly grinding. Blue, constantly grinding. All of them are like all trying to take steps to be quote unquote like a Pokemon master. But he doesn't do much at all.
Yeah, and I'll use one of my favorite main characters as an example. On you have to show you have Yusuke Urameshi. He doesn't really know how to use his powers. He's 14 years old. This is just like a synopsis of the show a little bit. He gets hit by a car, and then he goes to the spirit world. Well, that's kind of how the story starts. He doesn't have any powers, but how he evolves with his powers within him, he trains. Oh my god, he motherfucking trains. There's like some parts of the hearts that he's training. He goes to his master to train, to get better, to be a better skilled detective. And then he goes through struggles. He doesn't win every battle. He doesn't win every fight. But it's not like he gets his powers and he forgets about it. He learns from his mistakes. He understands why he's fighting for it. Then he understands why there's any reason to be fighting. Ash it's completely the opposite. You have a lack of training. You train certain Pokemon. Like the only reason why certain Pokemon evolves is because they have some type of rage inside them that they evolve for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Chimchar. The only reason why he evolves to the final stage in front ape, it's because he has really stores his old freaking mentor.
His old mentor was like, oh, I saw you use your ability Blaze once and you actually went crazy, but you're nothing compared to the Pokemon that I have now. And once he got in Ash's team, he was like, oh, I guess I have a trainer that loves me, but he still only evolved whenever he was like about to lose a fight. And the only reason he evolved into his Infernape, like you said, was because he was battling his old trainer and he wanted to prove a point that he was strong and like this is what you missed out on.
Right, and that's a copy and paste of like Charmeleon over again.
Yeah,
there's no ideas. And once you see the struggle with Red, you see the struggle with the characters around him as you go through the seasons and the volumes. Yeah, Ash does struggle. It's just painful. It's just frustrating because there's no growth, there's no depth to it. And when he gets an OP team, he just gets rid of them like they're nothing.
Yeah.
The problem that I find with the show is that it feels like it's confined to what the region is. Like the original one, where you in Kanto, you have the 151. That's understandable because it's a launching point for the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to Johto, and then you forget that you have a whole freaking generation before that, and it just bothers me so much. I know that each season is supposed to symbolize the new game. To this point, it doesn't really matter because and the only one that would make sense for him not to bring any of his starters or his previous team would be the Black and White series. Because Black and White, it was so limited for just that region. That's the only game that's limited to that series.
Mm-hmm.
Previous seasons, there's no limitation, but the show makes it limited for actually like, oh, I'm going to catch a new Pokemon. I'm going to catch a new starter. Why? You could have had Squirtle. You could have had Bulbasaur. You could have had Charizard. You could have Heracross. You could have Knockout. And the list goes on. But no, it just makes no sense. You just hate the fact that it confines itself to that region. And then he forgets everything. Those stakes with the anime. It's a problem. And my last stake would be, if you want to be a Pokemon master, you need to understand that getting to the Pokemon tournament, it's not good enough.
Mm-mm.
At this point, you should be like, okay, on Sinnoh and Hoenn, a semifinal is not even good enough. You should be winning. You won the Orange Islands before. You got far enough on Johto. Why getting a 8th place is better than getting a 4th place? That makes absolutely no sense.
And with Sinnoh, they really did him dirty in that like championship battle. Like, how are they gonna bring Tobias, this random trainer we haven't heard anything of, with 3-4 legendaries on his team? I don't get that. Like, it doesn't make sense to the story that this one person has 3-4 different types of legendaries that are in that region.
It just defeats the whole idea of, like, you wanted to progressively get better as you progress through the game. And we touched a little bit about this on the previous episode, is we don't fire legendaries that much on the Elite Four. Now there's Ash, this dumbass of a trainer, have 3 guys, 3 legends against, and then we expect him to win. He's not going to win. He's not going to win. How am I supposed to be cheering for him? They're like, okay, he's going to win. No, he's not. I don't care if your Chimchar has Blaze. I don't care. I don't care if your Turtwig going backwards. It makes no sense. Make it make sense. And that's the thing. If Ash was progressing in a linear way, like Red does in the manga, it would be a different story. We wouldn't be having this discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, a good example would be if I'm playing Hard Gold and Soul Silver. I'm playing those games, okay? I get 8 badges. Good. I beat the Elite Four. And then first gym on Kanto, I lose pretty bad. I lose pretty bad. But all my Pokemon are, doing well. Did I progress in the game? No, I didn't. Because I have the 8 badges and I have the Elite Four one. If I end up losing on the 9th gym, I'm going as backwards as Ash is. I'll put the game down and I'll never play again.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the hard work I did, it's all in vain. There's no more stakes. And that's the problem. The show doesn't have any stakes. Because if you're getting to the finals, work harder to be better. Work harder to win next time. Have a more of a sports mentality. It's like if a team makes it to the World Cup final, they make it to the World Cup final every 4 years. Every 4 years they're there, but they never win. They never win. So what should you do next to improve? Some training, get some better players, play them in the right positions, and all that stuff.
And it's like, why is Ash's motto, gotta catch them all, if he's only catching maybe 10 Pokemon throughout the whole entire region? And he could construct way better teams, way better players, like you're saying, and to get to that Elite Four status, but he stays the same, and he just lets himself lose basically because he doesn't want to catch more Pokemon or train the way that anybody else is training. And I feel like that's his biggest problem, is that he just lets people walk all over him because he doesn't want to take the right steps to be that trainer that he's been trying to be since Kanto.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong if you want to be friends with your Pokemon, because that's like Ash's motto too. But at some point, you have to be like, okay, like I use the World Cup analogy. If that player is not working, and if you're losing every fucking time with that player, remove that player. Maybe the player's wrong. maybe you have to. It's like the idiot complex, trying to do the same thing and expect different results.
And it's like he can be friends with this Pokemon and catch other Pokemon and be friends with them. Like he doesn't need to form this like close bond where y'all are basically family, because you can do that with any Pokemon that you catch. He just lets himself, I guess it's because he's a kid, but everybody else that he fights is also kids. Like he very rarely fights a grown up that has like fully evolved Pokemon, and he's been, training for years.
Well, it's like, and the thing that like drives me nuts is the fact Brock and Misty be like, hey, maybe you can do something different. It just doesn't help. Like, I hate to say it, but if Turtwig was such an OP Pokemon, fine, it's great. But if he starts losing after that, he was like dog water after that, why still have him on the team? Mm-hmm. The result is not going to be different. He's going to keep on losing. You have to change your mindset that you're going to be fine. I know I'm talking about like a anime character. I understand. It's a different message to kids that are watching the show. Yeah, it's the manga and the games are great in terms of strategy, but what the anime does is give kids a different sense of hope that is never going to be there. They're like, okay, so the mottos never give up, right? No, kids, do the same thing over and over. That's the motto. Okay, I understand it's good to never give up and never give up on your dreams, but Ash is like, he gives up on his dreams, I'm sorry, because if you're not catching them all, you already gave up on your dreams.
Yeah. I feel like he's caught more Tauros, like in that herd of Tauros that he has at Professor Oaks, than he has Pokemon in the like entire anime, the entire like playthrough of his life and career as a Pokemon trainer. Like he does the same things and expects different results. He doesn't do like really anything differently besides like talk to someone, or like he doesn't lead with different Pokemon. He uses the same bad type matchups. There's no progression for him, and that's like sending a bad message to people. That's like, if you want to get better at something, practice, but he doesn't practice.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, I just pull up the total. So from season 1 to when he retired, he only caught 83 Pokemon. At one point, he had 105. That's pathetic. I have caught more than that in my first time playing Pokemon Yellow. and almost got to the point that I had 3 times as much by the time that I was almost done with Gold and Silver. And it's ridiculous because, like I was saying, it gives kids a different message. It's like, oh, yes, I am cheering for you, Ash. So the motto is never to give up. And it's sad. That's why manga is a better alternative. I think you and I have ranted enough about this topic. I think we've done a pretty decent job. And trust me, and me and Jay are in agreement with this. We don't hate Pokemon. We don't hate Pokemon. We just wish the Pokemon anime would be done a little bit different.
There's more correlation to the manga, or relatable content for us. We need progression. Like, the anime isn't bad by any means. It's just the writers do such a bad job at pushing different messages, or just exploring more of the region that they're trying to get us to learn about. We need to see those, like, all these different Pokemon. We need to see Ash catching them, like how Red caught all the 151. I don't see why Ash can't do that if that's what he's been trying to do for 20 years, because he could never do what Red did in 1 year than, in his 20 years of being in the series.
Yeah, I think there's more stakes into the manga than there's to the anime. And then that's, the main problem. There's no progression. There's nothing really going on. Yeah, there's like, there's some progression between Sinnoh and Hoenn, and Hoenn and Sinnoh, and then there's reset button, and then you have he's a better trainer on Kalos, and then here's the reset button. It's just frustrating. It's annoying. There's no way to point it out. But I do have a final question for you, Jay. I probably know the answer, but do you think this anime translated well from its original source? The games, the manga, doesn't really matter. Which one?
No, the manga, the manga compared to the anime and games are just like completely different. You know, it's just like such more of a different atmosphere, and I wish they would push the manga as much as they did the anime and games because all of the books are like amazing reads. They're all, good exploration into the different, region, but it's just something that we don't get with the anime and the games. It's like the manga I feel like is 14 plus, but the anime and games they're all, catered towards 7 plus. The manga is just explores so much more that we don't get to see. And I don't think it translates that well.
Yeah, I think I'll go with the same route. I don't think it translates well because there's so much. Like I said, I don't want to go into another rant, but it feels like there's no progression with Ash. He forgets everything. He forgets his typings. He forgets basics of the game. And if you don't have like the basics down, then what's the point of you being here? I don't care if you've been doing this shit for 20 years. I don't care. If you don't have the basics down, it's not even worth it. It's not even worth my time. And the manga does well because there's development. He becomes a major player. Everybody like loves Red and just in the gold and silver versions, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Crystal on the Pokemon Masters. People like when you play against Red, and it's just a different ball game. Totally with that. But yeah, I mean, that pretty much does it for you and I today. And if you want to hear more from us, rant to you more about Pokemon and how Ash is a total dimwit, you can follow us on Anime Lost Translation. Doing this wrong. You can hear more from us from Anime LT Pod at Twitter or X. You can send us an email if you have any concerns, questions at anime lost translation at gmail.com. You can follow us on Discord on anime lost translation. That's pretty much does it for me. We'll hear from you guys soon. See ya.